Truth is stranger than fiction, they say, and nowhere is this more true than in the natural world. Symbiotic pairs, camouflaged critters and color-changing animals are one thing, but what about exploding and raining animals? Oh yes, it happens. From the world's weirdest team-ups to the most surreal self-detonating creatures on the planet, here are 10 phenomenal wonders of the animal kingdom. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe and click the notification bell for more amazing content. Let's begin. Number 10. Cannibalistic ants. Ants trapped in an abandoned nuclear bunker in western Poland devoured their dead to survive, according to a study published in November. In 2015, researchers first stumbled on the cannibalistic ant colony scuttling across the floor of a Soviet military bunker near the German border. Several thousand worker ants had fallen through a pipe in the bunker's ceiling and were unable to clamber back out. On inspection of dead ant carcasses found on the floor, scientists discovered the gnaw marks coated many of the insects' abdomens. But this gruesome tale does have a somewhat happy ending. The researchers installed a ramp for the ants to escape, and when the team returned a year later, most of the ants had left the bunker. Number 9. Headless chicken. In 1945, farmer Lloyd Olson took one of his many chickens to the chopping block to prepare dinner for his family. After decapitating the chicken, something strange happened. The chicken didn't die. The headless chicken, which the family later named Mike, continued to wander around the farm and steadfastly refused to be turned into the Olsons' supper. The Olsons discovered that they could still feed and water Mike by the way of an eyedropper inserted into his neck hole. After that, they took the chicken on the road, showing him off as Mike the headless chicken. What magic kept Mike alive? Sheer luck, as it happens. Scientists at the University of Utah who examined Mike found that Olson barely missed Mike's brainstem, which allowed him to continue walking and moving even after his decapitation. Unfortunately, Mike died when his family lost his eyedropper and were unable to help him when he began to choke on a kernel of corn. Number 8. Germany's bursting toads. Hamburg is often known as an idyllic port city of book publishers and media giants. Lately, however, the city's peace and quiet has been interrupted by a sickening natural oddity. Over 1,000 of the city's greenish-brown toads have swelled up to almost 4 times their normal size and then, bang, exploded, sending horrific entrails and body parts several feet into the pristine air. Stunned residents have nicknamed their city's once bucolic lake the Pond of Death, and officials have cordoned off the area for investigation. Vets and animal welfare agencies have spent days puzzling over the deeply troubling and downright disgusting mystery. Is it a fungus? Is it a virus? Are the toads simply suicidal? All the speculation was finally put to rest when Frank Munchman, one of Germany's top experts on amphibians, cracked the case, and the explanation was even more shocking than the toads' violent deaths. The massacre was apparently the work of a highly intelligent species of crows. Frank examined both living and dead specimens of the Hamburg toads. What he found was truly chilling. Identical circular incisions on their backs, just the size of a bird's beak. He also figured out that all the amphibians had their livers missing. There was no bite or scratch marks, so we knew the toads weren't being attacked by a raccoon or a rat, which would have also eaten the entire toad, Frank said. It was clearly the work of crows, which are clever enough to know the toad's skin is toxic and realize the liver is the only part worth eating. Only once the liver is gone does the toad realize it's being attacked. It puffs itself up as a natural defense mechanism, but since it doesn't have a diaphragm or ribs, without the liver, there's nothing much to hold the rest of its organs in. The lungs stretch out of all proportion and rip. The rest of the organs simply expel themselves. Number 7. Bird that cries hawk. Among the rolling red dunes of the Kalahari Desert, the song of the fork-tailed drongo provides a warning that predators are lurking close by. The songbird acts as the desert's watchdog, always poised and ready to warn its fellow creatures of impending danger. Or at least that's what the bird wants you to believe. Scientists claim this tricky African bird is in fact a pathological liar in the animal kingdom. Drongos, common in southern Africa, usually get meals the honest way, such as capturing insects in midair using their incredible aerial skills. But at other times, like on cold mornings when a few insects are flitting around, the drongos turn to a life of crime. When times are hard, the crafty bird can make false alarms to make other animals drop their kill and run from the scene. Meanwhile, the drongo swoops in to pick up the remains. But sometimes the birds try this tactic too often, and when they don't get a reaction, researchers have discovered that they've another trick up their sleeve: vocal mimicry. The drongos are able to mimic the sounds made by many different species that inhabit its desert environment. These include birds such as pied babblers, glossy starlings, sociable weavers, and pale chanting goshawks, as well as mammals like meerkats. Scientists tracked 64 fork-tailed drongos over a span of nearly 850 hours in the Kalahari Desert in South Africa, close to the Botswana border, to unravel this unique behavior. They found that drongos can catch up to 23% of their daily food by making false alarms and stealing their target's dinner. Number 6. Zombie cicadas. Beneath the soil, cicadas wait as long as 17 years until the right temperature beckons them to the surface. At once they emerge like zombies rising from the graves. They greet the sun, preparing to molt into adults in coming weeks, and then fly off to mate. This is a cicada's simple life, unless it's been infected. Cicadas infected with a particular fungus develop a drug-like energy rush, engage in a raucous orgy, and then literally lose their butts. According to a recent study, the Massapora fungus contains a cocktail of chemicals, including traces of amphetamines and hallucinogens, that send cicadas into a sex-fueled frenzy. Males will even try to copulate with each other and imitate female behavior to attract a mate under the influence of the fungus. The fungus spreads through these sexual exchanges and also gets released by infected insects into a dramatic spray of disintegrating body parts. That's why we call them flying salt shakers of death, said co-author Matt Casson to Live Science. Number 5. Bizarre tree-climbing goats. On the dusty road from Marrakesh to the coastal town of Essaouira, argan trees pepper the rust-coloured countryside. The gnarled, thorny plants grow exclusively in southwestern Morocco, and western Algeria may not be pretty, but they attract plenty of fans. Herds of hungry goats pose in their crooked branches, sometimes more than 1 dozen in a single tree. There's an explanation for the strange phenomenon. Argan trees produce a fruit that looks like a shriveled olive and ripens each year around June. The resourceful goats crave the bitter taste and aroma, climbing up to 30 feet above the ground to get their fix, and up to 84% of their diet. The goats eat the whole fruit, even though it's the pulp hiding under the thick peel that tastes so good. The pulp covers a nut that humans desperately covet. So, what happens next? The goats actually excrete the undigestible nuts, traditionally collected to make the oil. Number 4. Murmurations. Individually, a European starling is little more than a common blackbird. They're practically everywhere. More than 200 million are in North America alone, singing their chirpy little songs and becoming, to many backyard growers and full-time farmers, a bit on the pesty side. Collectively, though, starlings transform into something else entirely. Together, in flight, in mesmerizing flocks that sometimes number in the hundreds of thousands, they are a breath-stealing wonder, a pulsating, swooping, living, harmonized whole, seemingly defying the laws of nature while defining nature itself. In the 1930s, famed ornithologist Edmund Selous suggested that birds moving in murmurations were using some sort of telepathy to transmit their flying intentions. They must think collectively, all at the same time, a flash out of so many brains, he wrote in his book, Thought Transference, or What, in Birds. As the years wore on, we found out that's not quite it. Number 3. Monkey invasion. With shops shut, populations locked down and tourists staying home, wildlife is encroaching into formerly no-go urban territory. But while some, like the wild goats of North Wales, seem to be enjoying their new domains, others, like the monkeys of Lopburi, Thailand, are clearly hungry and missing people. Pictures of animals roaming our deserted streets might at first glance seem cute or fun, but they're also a stark illustration of the economic paralysis caused by the coronavirus crisis and a reminder of the close relationships between humans and animals. The negative impact on animals of people staying indoors is clearly seen in the Thai city of Lopburi, northeast of Bangkok. Locals have described vast brawls of monkeys estimated at around 1,000 in one report, scavenging among trash and fighting for food. Number 2. Cow compass. Now let's talk about clever animals. As you probably know, many birds, insects and even mammals have a fixed movement direction, and now cows and bulls have joined them. A group of German scientists decided to study cows' behavior. Sounds like a weird topic for an investigation, right? But for many years, farmers who paid attention found something interesting. Scientists also studied images from Google Earth and have confirmed that cattle tend to align their bodies in a north-south direction. Wild deer also display this behavior, a phenomenon that has apparently gone unnoticed by herdsmen and hunters for thousands of years. In the proceedings for the National Academy of Sciences, scientists say that the Earth's magnetic fields may influence the behavior of these animals. The Earth can be viewed as a huge magnet, with magnetic north and south situated close to the geographical poles. Many species, including birds and salmon, are known to use the Earth's magnetic fields in migration, rather like a natural GPS. A few studies have shown that some mammals, including bats, also use a magnetic compass to help their sense of direction. Dr. Sabine Begel from the University of Duisburg-Essen, Germany, has mainly studied the magnetic sense of mole rats, African animals that live in underground tunnels. "We were wondering if larger animals also have this magnetic sense," she told BBC News. And number 1. Waves of locusts. Weeks before the coronavirus spread through much of the world, parts of Africa were already threatened by another kind of plague, the biggest locust outbreak some countries had seen in 70 years. Now the second wave of the voracious insect, some 20 times the size of the first, is arriving. Billions of the young desert locusts are winging in from breeding grounds in Somalia in search of fresh vegetation, springing up with seasonal rains. "It's the locust that everyone is talking about," said Yoweri Abuket, a farmer in Uganda. "Once they land in your garden, they do total destruction. Some people will even tell you that the locusts are more destructive than the coronavirus. There are even some who don't believe that the virus will reach here." The UN Food and Agriculture Organization has called the locust outbreak, caused in part by climate change, an unprecedented threat to food security and livelihoods. The UN has raised its aid appeal from $76 million to $153 million, saying immediate action is needed before more rainfall fuels further growth in locust numbers. So far, the FAO has collected $111 million in cash or pledges. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please let me know by clicking the like button. Do share, write a comment, and don't forget to subscribe so that you can catch up my next video.